If the right-wing Republicans force a default, it will mean the loss of millions of American jobs, interest rates on mortgages and credit cards will soar, and Americans will lose trillions of dollars in household wealth.
It's true. It's all true. It's all true. All of it. And it disproportionately is going to affect black people as well, because yes, black people, for a number of reasons, are very poor in their demographics compared to other groups, such as white Americans. So yeah, it's a war on the poor, and it sucks on every single level that this keeps happening, and they keep trying to scapegoat it. Bernie Sanders is fucking being such a dude lately. You'll love to see it. Pretty much career long being a dude. Republicans have made it clear that they are prepared to hold our entire economy hostage unless you accede to their demands to reduce the deficit on the backs of working families. That is simply unacceptable. Senator Bernie Sanders and 10 other senators on Thursday ramped up their calls for President Joe Biden to strongly consider invoking the 14th Amendment authority to avert a debt failure as the GOP continues to demand steep federal spending cuts and attacks on critical aid programs. It is unfortunate that Republicans in the House of Representatives and the Senate are not acting in good faith. Instead, Republicans have made it clear that they are prepared to hold our entire economy hostage unless you accede to their demands to reduce the deficit on the backs of working families. The letter and flurry of urgent statements from progressive lawmakers come in amidst continued uncertainty over whether the White House or Republican negotiators would be able to reach a deal to raise the debt ceiling before the June 1st date. That's not looking good. Progressives have vocally condemned the GOP's push for new work requirements for recipients of federal aid and deep austerity in the form of spending caps, which would devastate key programs and services, hamstring the government's ability to respond to economic turmoil. Basically, all the right has right now is fucking suffering. Immense suffering. That's it. They make their own constituents suffer. It's like, if you live in a red state, your life is going to become infinitely worse by right-wing Republican policies. And then you're probably going to think, well, it's the immigrants that are doing this, or it's that trans beer. Yeah. Can we do an investigation into that trans beer? I think that's what's causing all the problems in society, broadly speaking. Like, look at this stance. Look at this power stance. What a fucking dude.
In fact, over the past 63 years, the national debt limit has been raised nearly 80 times.
They brought out the Fetterman? Oh, soon may the Fetterman come to bring us radical socialism.
49 times when a Republican has been president, and 29 times when a Democrat has been president. The debt ceiling was raised 18 times under President Ronald Reagan, 7 times under President George W. Bush, and 3 times under President Donald Trump, when the national debt increased by some $8 trillion.
So, do it, Joe. Don't be corn pop now. You're acting very corn pop lately. All this border shit, very, very corn pop. The Title 42 shit, very corn pop. But here's an opportunity to be dark branded, to ascend like a phoenix.
With no strings attached. Bottom line, we pay our debt. That is what a major country does, the largest economy in the world. We pay our debts. And let's be clear, what the debt ceiling is about is paying money that has...
Whoa. Former Qatar State Department cries that she lost her slaves. The jokes write themselves. So just so you know, my father lost 120 million over 6 months. Yes, we were filthy fucking rich, but he lost it. And yes, I have a privileged upbringing, but that ended with a bang when my dad's fortune went. We had days with no food, no electricity. My dad started to drive a yellow cab. I had 2 or 3 jobs at the time, and not cool, fun jobs, shitty, dirty jobs where I was on my feet for 14 hours a day, just trying to keep our family together. I had to work my ass off to get my degrees. Nobody handed me shit. My sister, I don't want to read that out loud. My father died of leukemia from the stress from the loss and consequent hardships. So before you castigate me as an elitist asshole and revel in my family's misfortune, maybe you should consider that people of all walks of life suffer and endure hardship, regardless of what you think you know about them. So shut the fuck up. Thank you very much.
Already been appropriated and spent. It has nothing to do with future budgets and future spending. You could debate that. This is simply a question of paying off.
By the way, when it comes to that shit, it's so sad. Like, you all saw Tim Pool's PragerU commencement speech video where he's basically talking about how he's like a rags to riches story and anyone can do it and you can make your dreams possible if you just go out and do it. Why not just be honest? Every single person who's like, you don't know how much I suffered, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm a very hard worker. I put in outrageous hours to the point where my partner has to tell me to stop doing work. She's like, it's not healthy, Lance. You don't have to run 5 fucking YouTube channels and keep producing videos and content all the fucking time. Take a break. Go enjoy yourself. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll read about the topics I want to talk about tomorrow. It's like, no, just like let it go for a little bit. And I have tons of fucking privilege. Tons of privilege to get where I am. So many opportunities and things. And like, yeah, there's some things that come from fucking hard work, and hard work is fucking good. And I definitely say the same thing I always say. Fucking maximize yourselves. Be the best version of yourself that you can be. But like, also acknowledge that shit, you know? Even if you had like, you don't have to come from a rich family. If you have 2 parents who love you and who raise you with love, that's fucking privilege. Lots of people don't have that. Lots of people have shit parents. Lots of people have alcoholic parents. Lots of people have deadbeat parents. Lots of parents that beat them, that sexually molest them, that don't tell them that they love them all the time. That's fucked up. And that's what some people have to deal with. And yeah, we should probably help people who are in the lowest ends of society so they don't have to live that way. What the Republicans are proposing here, what their budget is trying to do, is to slash a bunch of programs that, again, affect the very poorest people of society. And yeah, they're going to suffer more. And guess what? Hey, Target, you know how you were just saying, like, this is all interconnected. You know how you're just saying that you're so worried about losing $500 million in theft? This is correlated with that, because poverty intersects with fucking crime. When people are poor, guess what? They steal things. Yeah, they steal things to have those things, because they can't buy them with the money they don't have. If you want to fucking reduce levels of crime, you have to reduce levels of poverty.
However, in an unprecedented and outrageous way, extreme right-wing Republicans have hijacked the debt ceiling process and have said to the American people, if we don't get our way and impose savage cuts on the needs of working families, the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor, if you don't do what we demand that you do, we are prepared to allow the United States government to default and bring our economy and the world's economy into turmoil. That's what the Republicans are essentially saying. If the right-wing Republicans force a default, it will mean the loss of millions of American jobs, interest rates on mortgages and credit cards will soar, and Americans will lose trillions of dollars in household wealth.
It's true. It's all true. It's all true. All of it. And it disproportionately is going to affect black people as well, because yes, black people, for a number of reasons, are very poor in their demographics compared to other groups such as white Americans. So yeah, it's a war on the poor, and it sucks on every fucking single level that this shit keeps happening, and they keep trying to scapegoat it. Rather than saying, hey, are you tough on crime? Do you back the blue? Are you really pro-cop? All that shit? Okay, so do you want to reduce crime? Well, it turns out the answer is not more cops, because guess what? America is incarcerating people at a higher rate than anywhere else in the fucking world, in the history of the fucking earth. America, number 1% of their population is behind bars, and yet crime still persists. Something is wrong here. We're not doing it properly. I gotta show you the recent criminal that the coppers put away. The NYPD has more monies than some countries do their military budget. They're almost half the Canadian military budget just in the NYPD. I think it's $11 billion right now, and the Canadian military is around 25. So almost half the Canadian military budget just for the New York Police Department. And check out this menace to society that they have prevented from attacking. The NYPD is arresting on average 4 people who are trying to film the police every single day, including this adorable dog named Harvey. Hashtag free Harvey, everyone. Harvey doesn't deserve this, okay? Harvey's owner is just one of the 2,746 humans who have been arrested for filming the NYPD in the last 2 years alone. On May 3rd, 2020, Molly Grifford stepped out of her blue Bed-Stuy apartment? No, I don't know how to pronounce this. Apartment to take her dog Harvey, a 9-year-old Yorkie, for a walk. They hadn't gotten far when Grifford saw the police pulling a young black man out of a bodega and around the corner, where they already had other young black men up against a wall. There was a lot of police officers there, and they were acting very aggressive, so I pulled out my phone and I started recording. I believe what I was seeing was an illegal stop, question, and frisk. Griffith had some expertise in the subject. She's an attorney and with the Legal Aid Society, where she works on police misconduct issues as part of a division dedicated to reforming the criminal legal system. As she filmed from a safe distance, Griffith told Hellgate she called out to the young men lined up against the wall, informing them of their rights to a lawyer and to remain silent. That's when one of the officers started pushing me back, even though I wasn't close enough to interfere with what the police were doing. He told me I had to cross the street. Griffith did cross the street, but she also asked the cop who had pushed her for his business card, knowing that under a Right to Know Act passed by the City Council in 2017, he was legally obligated to provide it, but he didn't comply with her request. Instead, he spun around and arrested me and my dog. Again, this is the dog. This is the dog. They're arresting fucking puppies. Griffith was pleased to get arrested, but she was not pleased to getting arrested, but she didn't especially want her Yorkie taken into custody. A co-worker who lived nearby arrived on the scene as Griffith was being arrested and offered to take the dog, but the officers on the scene wouldn't allow it. Instead, they took Griffith and Harvey to the 79th precinct, where they separated the two and confiscated Griffith's phone, booked her for obstruction of the government administration, and held Griffith in a cell for 8 hours, initially without a mask. While she was locked up, officers refused to tell her where they were holding Harvey or how he was doing, she said. Griffith was eventually released around 1 a.m. with the desk appearance ticket. Her charges were dropped even before the first day in court, because of course, and the young men she'd seen up against the wall were never arrested. Griffith never got her phone or the video of it back from the police. Harvey was traumatized by the incident, Griffith said, and is now prescribed a low dose of Xanax to treat his anxiety disorder. That's so fucking cruel. This month, she filed a lawsuit alleging false arrest and imprisonment, retaliatory arrest, and that constitutional rights were violated, alleging that New York City has a widespread policy, custom, and practice of obstructing and preventing concerned citizens from recording police activity in public locations and of targeting and arresting citizens for recorded police activity in public spaces, in violation of the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. To show there's a pattern of police arresting people who try to film them, Griffith's lawsuit points to a dozen previous lawsuits arising from incidents in which police arrested or allegedly interfered with the people who had been filming them. In New York City, it is everyone's legal right to film the police. That right is recognized in case law and codified in city law in the form of the Right to Record Act and in state law in the Right to Monitor Act. But while the right exists in paper, it isn't always honored and celebrated. In 2020, police arrested an injured grandmother who they thought was filming them in a precinct vestibule. The same year, the Department of Homeless Services, police arrested a man who had photographed them violating masking regulations. It's also not a right that our mayor seems terribly enthusiastic about. Eric Adams devoted one of his early speeches as mayor to criticizing people who film the police, saying that often when they get too close to cops, quote, if an officer is on the ground wrestling with someone that has a gun, they should not have to worry about someone standing over them with a camera while they're wrestling with someone, Adams said. Stop being on top of my police officers while they're carrying out their jobs. That is not acceptable and won't be tolerated. That is a very dangerous environment that you are creating when you are on top of that officer. Who is doing that? People are fucking scared of the cops. They're terrified of them. Do you think they're walking on top of the cops with a fucking camera just being like, I see you, ACAB, motherfucker, 1312 motherfucker, yeah, ACAB. Fucking, they know they'll get their asses beat if they do this shit. While Adams was frustrated with people who filmed the police, the New York Police Department required under the Right to Record Act published statistics tracking how many people it arrests while they're trying to film police activity. According to those numbers, the New York Police Department arrested 2,746 people who were in the process of filming or trying to film police activity in the last 2 years alone. In the last 2 years alone, over 1,000 people a fucking year. Of those arrested while trying to film the police, 55% were black. Interesting. 13% of the population, 55% of the people being filmed just for doing something that is completely 100% legal. 29 were Hispanic, according to the New York Police Department records. The New York Police Department did not respond to requests for comment on its right to record statistics on Griffith's suit. That's a lot of arrests, said Keegan Steffen, one of the lawyers representing Griffith in the suit. The New York Police Department is arresting on average 4 people who are trying to film the police every single day. We already have a Right to Record Act, but clearly we need something else, some sort of court injunction that would start. Abolish police unions, get rid of qualified immunity, let them face consequences for doing crimes and doing illegal shit. I know I already moved on from talking about the climate, even though I got to talk about the climate because this is all happening. There's also a direct connection with a lot of these oil companies funding Christian nationalist movements. And in this case, I've been talking about how Alberta has a very, very horrifyingly racist and anti-vax premier of the province right now. It turns out that a lot of the movement that is trying to fund a lot of the shit in the Take Back Alberta movement, the Wexit movement to separate Alberta from the rest of Canada and, get to keep all their sweet, sweet tar sands. It's being funded. So the destabilization of society is also, in another way, being funded by these fucking organizations. Emails reveal pipeline connecting Take Back Alberta organizers to election fraud scrutineers in the UCP campaign. The UCP candidates defend the campaign links to group raising doubts about voting machines and warnings of busload of fake voters. Participants of the controversial scrutineering training session are being introduced to the local UCP campaigns by top organizers from the right-wing group.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Juste, we shall spend many a generations building mighty cathedrals in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your oafish jesters, here to offer you a laugh at any opportunity. To our brave knights of the Round Table, Rachel K., Izzy Solidarity, Victoria Bell, Sebastian Demel, Mark Harmon, Benji Arney, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Everything Important, Hegbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Doug Cady, Daniel Sutton, Jenna Tao, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevbot EXE, Brian Ephraim, Anthropophojak, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Ralph Parler, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Todd Buckingham, and Todd La Jeunesse. We salute our valiant heroes off to fight injustice everywhere.